Ladies and gentlemen, Deja Vu here, bringing you another StarCraft commentary, and this is actually going to be a single set. It's going to be the third game between Samsung Khan and KT Rolster, and I heard that this was a very, very good game, and on top of it, Jangbi is going to be playing, so my love for Jangbi, of course, makes me want to cast it, and if it's going to be a good game, well, then let's watch it. So we're going to have Jangbi in the top right in yellow. Of course, he is the Imba Protoss player. Right there. There he is. You can see him with his golden hair. And in the bottom right is going to be HoeJJa for KT Rolster. This is the third game. I don't really know. Let's see. Okay, there we go. It's 1-1 so far for the series. And this map is Fighting Spirit. So this should be pretty good. I've got a couple comments from people saying that this was a great game, and since I have a love of Jangbi, I should cast it, so therefore I am here, and I'm hoping that it ends up as good as advertised. Look, you can see there on the statistics, map statistics on the left-hand side, you can see that this map is very, very balanced in all matchups, really no imbalances at all, so very, very nice to see that we're going to get to see a good game on this. And yeah, looks like Jangbi's going to start out with the traditional opening, and getting that probe scout, going to go in the right direction, which is always a nice little advantage there, that he doesn't have to go all the way around waiting to see what's going to be coming his way. And it looks like an Overlord is being produced first here for HoeJJa, so we'll get to see, what is this, maybe a 12 hatch, maybe an overpool. Looks like we're going to be seeing a 12 hatch build there, and HoeJJa, I don't know what that was, like misclicking his drone or something, going to the corner of his base. Does he really think that a probe was going to put a pylon down there? Maybe, but looks like a misclick there. And there we do see that the spawning pool has come down, and the Overlord has spawned as well, so we can see some more drones, and then his hatchery will probably come up at the natural expansion quite soon here. And this should be, I think, Jangbi is undefeated versus HoeJJa so far. He hasn't played him yet this season, but last year in 2009 he played HoeJJa twice and beat him both times. Once on Neo Harmony, yeah, that's how long ago they played. Once on Neo Harmony, and then once also in God's Garden. Both of those games were Pro League or Winners League, so hasn't been a Star League meeting between these two. I don't know if HoeJJa's really been able to advance very far into a Star League. I know he hasn't medaled or anything like that, but he's never really been that strong of a player. He has a pretty good macro style, but he's not particularly impressive in any other sense. At least in the Star Leagues, he really hasn't performed that fantastically. And they should be Zerglings popping out here pretty soon for HoeJJa. And I think as long as Jangbi, I think if he starts a cannon up now, he should be good to go in terms of his defense. You hate to see a Protoss player skimp on his cannons and then get beat by a run-by, and we did see Jangbi throw down the Nexus before his cannon, but I think he's going to be okay. Yeah, he does have two cannons coming up here. He may actually have to pull off a couple probes in order to block a little bit better, or if he can get a gateway up in that right there in that slot, that could also really help him out. And there is the gateway. So there's going to be one small path right down the middle. This is kind of a new, I don't know if it's really new, but this is one of the cooler, harder to execute builds in terms of making your wall-in for your fast expand. It's making that narrow path down the middle, just because it requires a little bit more practice and really thought to get it set up right, but it's really cool once you get it. It just makes like this nice little cavern. It's like daring someone to walk down a gorge of death, and it's really quite cool, and it looks artistic. So I like that by Jangbi. I like that play. I know a couple other people have been doing that recently as well, rather than going with the traditional where the wall is just on one half of the pathway, or like 3/4 of the pathway, and you just make one line down one of the other down one of the sides. Now we get to see some of these more middle pathways. And I am very interested to see what Jangbi really goes for here in his PvZ. I remember it was maybe a few months ago, Jangbi was struggling in virtually everything, except he was doing very, very well in PvZ on match point. And what he was doing on match point was he was going with double Stargate, picking off as many Overlords as he possibly could, and then going reverse, but using his reverse defensively to establish a third base. And that seemed to be very, very effective for Jangbi. And I'm curious as to what he comes up with here on Fighting Spirit. I'm not so sure if that that strategy could still work here, certainly, but you are going to have two full areas in which to defend, whereas on match point, when you go for that mineral only, the small ramp right outside your natural, you can almost partially ignore that in terms of a defensive spot. It requires much less presence, much less strength to really defend that ramp. So he could really put most of his efforts on that mineral only to defend it. And I'm not so sure if he'll be able to do that here, because he'd have to defend both his third base if he takes it at the the 3 o'clock position, he'd have to both defend that ramp as well as the bridge to his natural. So I am curious to see what kind of build he goes for here. We do have the Stargate coming up as the core has finished, and the third base for Zerg has gone down in the bottom left, and that one should be going very, very strong. Get a Spire Start here as well as an Evolution Chamber. Should be seeing a Hydra Den, or I'm sorry, a couple more hatcheries pretty soon here as they go into the usual 5-hatch Hydra. And there's a Citadel of a Dune, so it looks like we've got +1, or no, Cybernetic score could be +1, could be range, it could be either right now. And we also do have the Corsair being produced, and presumably Zealot legs will be coming on the way as well. So this is going to be interesting. I want to see whether this is going to be +1 or if it's going to be early Dragoon range, and if he's going to go for a Dragoon heavy build, not the usual Zealot legs. That is a pretty normal opening. We haven't seen the 4th and 5th hatcheries quite yet for HoeJJa. Those should be coming up shortly, I would think, sending a couple drones down to the bottom left. There is the 4th hatchery coming up at the natural expansion, and presumably the 5th will be coming up at his 3rd as well. Of course, they're wandering around trying to get a scout in, trying to catch some overlords, seeing if he can pick anything off. If he had just gone west just a tiny, tiny little bit, I think he would have seen that overlord and been able to catch it, but it looks like no, he's just going to... I think he's completely missed it, unfortunately. So... Second Corsair has been produced, moving to the south. I'm going to go check out the build, make sure that there isn't too many Mutalisks, or that make sure that the hatcheries are being thrown up on time. Notice if there's any holes in the wall for the Zerg, those kinds of things, as the turtling defensive Zergs do occasionally mess up their walls, and if that happens, you know, you can definitely take advantage. And we do have a cannon coming up. Templar Archives is complete. So Jangbi's plan here really hasn't revealed itself in its entirety quite yet. We do have a couple Corsairs out right now. Looks like he's going to be building up Corsair numbers. I suspect that that is +1 weapons, and that he will go for a pretty heavy Corsair build. But other than that, the rest of his build has not really been revealed. We'll see if it ends up being for DTs or something like that. We do have a couple gateways added on, so this could be for sort of a Sair DT build, which would be very, very cool to see. But not entirely certain so far. And yeah, that is DTs out, so this does look like it's going to be Sair DTs, but I think Overlords are pretty well positioned right now, and I'm not so sure if he's going to be very, very successful. I think he'll be... Ooh, Burrow has been finished for HoeJJa, so he might be able to get a little bit of a trap here. As soon as those units leave, he could use those Zerglings to pick off the probe or pick off the building nexus, and that Zergling is definitely going to be able to stop the nexus from going down just by its mere existence and making a hole in the foundations of the nexus that's trying to be produced. So he's going to have to wait until he gets a cannon up or an observer before he can really get that down. Looks like with those Corsair numbers, looks like we're at about 5 Corsairs +1 has finished, so these are going to be able to pick off Overlords very, very quickly, as well as be able to handle Scourge. So those should be in good shape for Jangbi to go on the offensive here a little bit. He's going to have to watch out. There are spore colonies at each of HoeJJa's bases, it looks like, which is very, very nice for him. And HoeJJa actually going here for a ring run-by on this 3 o'clock base, going to try and snipe this Nexus, and the Nexus does go down. I think it was cancelled. Didn't want to lose it. And DT trying to sneak into the main. Will it get there? Will it get there? So close. No, it will not. So DT sneak does not go through. And a couple cannons, and a Nexus being thrown up at the third base. So he's going to take that third. And HoeJJa, we'll see if he responds with going for more eco. He is getting that hive up, so we could be seeing some swarm being mixed in with cracklings, which can be very, very effective, as well as drops. Drops would also be very, very effective. If you can get in behind Jangbi's troops and start dropping on the gateways, that can definitely be quite a killer blow as well. And Jangbi looks like he is going to charge in here with his +1, going to try and pick off these Overlords as fast as possible, even as the Spore Colony is picking at his Corsairs. And that Corsair, nice micro there by Jangbi, not losing that Corsair, and is able to keep it alive. And here comes the Scourge, going to try and pick off the Corsairs, and it picks off one. Yes, they do manage to pick off one, but a lot of Overlords went down there. It looked like 4 or 5 Overlords went down. So that I'm sure that HoeJJa right now is Psylocke, so that's going to be a problem. And he is throwing up a creep and a Spore Colony inside of his main as well. So all of his bases are going to be defended against possible DT drops or anything like that. And they look like they'll be in pretty good shape. We do have an Archon out in the field that's not going to do, or like, it's going to stop these Zerglings from doing much of anything. A lot of gateways being added for Jangbi. He's going to head into a big macro developmental phase of his army here. Looks like his +1 weapons has finished as well as his legs, and he looks like he's going for a little bit of an attack. I don't think that there's really a hole there for him to try and take advantage, but it looks like he's trying anyways. A couple Zerglings being unburrowed here, going to try and pick at these Zerglings, but they're really not going to have too much success. And as soon as an observer pops out, we do have a robotics facility out. As soon as an observer pops out, he'll be ready to go and finish this off. And a couple Zals having some trouble here with the Lings. Corsairs going back into HoeJJa's base, trying to pick off some Overlords. Looks like they got a couple Scourges there at least. But I don't think he lost any Corsairs, so in that sense he's still okay. Still doing a pretty good job of keeping his Corsairs alive, losing very, very few of them, and at the same time picking off several Overlords. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to, Jangbi has not been able to get his DTs